On this edition of City Profile, I'll be talking with Sandra Wilson, Paducah City Commissioner. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to City Profile. I'm Tom Butler, and on today's show, I have a real treat for me and hopefully for you. I'm going to be talking with almost brand new City Commissioner Sandra Wilson. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure, and it seems like we have known each other for a long time, and we were reminiscing a little bit before the show because I believe we first met when you worked here at the college. Is that right?
It is. I hate to say how many years ago, but it was about 27 years ago. I was here at the college for a while as the Public Relations and Alumni Director.
And things have changed for you a lot since then. So why don't you just give the viewers a little bit about who you are? You can tell us about your family and what you like to do and where you've gone and how far you've come in 27 years.
Oh, wow. Well, in some ways it's been a lot, and then in other ways, you know, I left here and joined what was then called Westvaco.
Right.
And I was in a program called Leadership Paducah, and met the HR director at NewPage, or at Westvaco then at that time, and they had an opening in their public relations department, and so I ended up deciding to make that move, and then I was there for 26 years. So I did see name changes. I changed offices 3 times during that 26 years, but I was always just in a little circle in the building. And we were Westvaco, then Meade Westvaco, and then NewPage. So I was there for 26 years as their public affairs manager, and really had not planned to leave there, but as you know, I did just recently leave, semi-retired, I guess, from there, and took a job as the president of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce. So I'm excited to be there and excited to be in Paducah. And then also last year I decided to run for Paducah City Commission and had a really good response from the community, and I'm very appreciative of that, and have just finished 6 months as a Paducah City Commissioner.
Right. Why does one decide to get into politics like that? What was your motivation? What got you to thinking, this is something I want to do, and I think I'd be good at it?
You know, when I was growing up, my parents had gotten involved in a school board race because of something that they didn't think was being handled correctly at the school I was attending. So they got very involved in that, and I remember a little bit of the campaign, but most of all, I remember the victory dinner. Their candidate won. We went to the old Jerry's in Murray restaurant. I don't know if you've ever been to and remember those days. They had the drive-through, and we went and celebrated, and as a little girl, I remember that. But I did not grow up wanting to be involved in politics by any means. But I've been very involved in economic development. That's really been my community involvement. Has been, well, I was chairman of the chamber many years ago, but then I was chairman most recently of the Paducah Economic Development Group. And while I was chairman of that, I also was appointed by Murray State University to serve on their task force to look at a possible expansion of their campus in Paducah, or to have a new campus, just whatever they could do. They were looking at many different options. And through that involvement, I started working with the McCracken County Fiscal Court and the Paducah City Commission to see how we could offer Murray State the opportunity to have a new building in Paducah, either through somebody bonding it or helping them with their bond payments, or however we could make that work. And as it did, the McCracken County Fiscal Court took the lead and issued the bonds, and the Paducah City Commission joining with them to make those payments, as well as Murray State. So, as well as Paducah Economic Development is making part of that payment. So while working with both commissions, meeting with them and asking them, I just kind of got my interest more sparked in serving in public as a public servant, as an elected official, and decided to run.
Wow. So tell me what it's like when you make that decision. You've gone through a campaign, which has got to be really tough too. What's it like on election day and election night?
It was very fun for me this year.
You won.
Because I did have a great response. It's a long process because you file, as a city commissioner, you run every other year. So, you know, you have to file by the end of January, and I toyed with the idea for about a week and thought, no. Well, I mean, I had been thinking about it, but I hadn't really made my decision. I just kind of put it on the back burner. Then for about 3 or 4 days, I talked about it with my family, prayed about it, and tried to decide, is this really something I want to do? And on January 30th, I just decided, yes, it is. I drafted a press release, which is, you know, I've been involved in PR, so I sat down and drafted a news release that I was planning to run for city commission, went and filed the papers and started right then. So it is a long process from January until the November election. And of course, last year we had 19 people running for Paducah City Commission. So then in May, you know, that's a process, but you know, that to me was fun. You know, I walked a lot of the streets. People helped me walk those streets and put out the cards. I went to so many events that I might not have ever gone to had I not been running for City Commission. So it was just great getting out and meeting people, talking to them about why I was running, what I would like to see for the city. So of course in May, then the 19 went to 8. And then, you know, I probably took a little break in May and June and didn't do quite as much, but then back out in July and August campaigning for the November election. And again, it was a lot of fun.
So you were also very successful because I believe you're Mayor Pro Tem, is that?
Yes, I am. And, you know, I had always heard that the person that got the most votes is the Mayor Pro Tem, but that actually has to be voted on and approved by the City Commission. So, and they did. I mean, that has been the tradition in Paducah, and I think it is in most communities that the person that gets the most votes is the Mayor Pro Tem. So that was an unexpected surprise. It was very nice. I actually finished first both time in May and in November, so very, very appreciative to the voters of Paducah.
Well, sometimes when you're outside looking in, you don't know exactly what you might be getting into. What has surprised you the most since becoming a city commissioner?
That my skin is actually thicker than I thought it would be.
Ah.
Because I have learned, I mean, you certainly cannot please everyone all of the time, and there are so many different facets to look at on every issue. And I know there are going to be votes that I'm going to cast that won't make everyone happy, and that's just the nature of it. And I really think my family thought that I would be much more affected personally by things that people would say to me than I have been. I feel like you know, that may sound petty,
no, I think
that my skin's thicker, but you have to have that.
It's something that I'm not sure I could do because I'm kind of a pleaser and I want everybody to like me and everybody to be happy, but nobody's 100% in a city this size on the same side every time, it doesn't seem like.
And you know, those are a lot of my characteristics also. I want everybody to get along, and I still do. I mean, I want us to get along. I want us to find an answer that everyone can agree to, and I don't think that's going to be possible on every issue, but there's just so much said on every issue, and sometimes it can be very personal to you as well as an elected official. And I just feel like I'm learning to adjust to that and handle that and kind of just walk off and leave it.
Well, have you developed a certain decision-making process that you go through when you're voting on something that you think might not be favorable to some folks? Do you just go with your gut? Do you do a lot of research? How do you end up making a decision like that?
I am listening to people. I'm reading and calling. You know, the people that are opposed to an issue are usually the ones that you hear from.
Right.
The people that support it are not as apt to send you emails or to call you or whatever. So those are the ones you have to reach out to and say, you know, the experts on something. If it's something tourism related, then I'm going to reach out to the people that are involved with that on a daily process. And I'm going to call them and ask them, what are your thoughts on this issue? So I am doing a lot of research, mostly about talking to people. I would say I do some on the internet, but I want to know what is appropriate for our community. Right. And you can get ideas by looking and listening to what other communities have done, but also I want to listen to the people here on both sides of an issue. So I've been doing that, but I find that ultimately I have to make the best decision in my gut that I can be comfortable with, and once I make that decision, then I have to trust that it is the right one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you think are, in your 6 months as commissioner, what have you found to be so far the biggest issues that are facing our community and are important to you?
I think the biggest issue facing our community, and I said this even during the campaign, is the loss of the jobs at USEC. And we are working on that on a daily basis as the city and the county and Paducah Economic Development, the chamber, with the union, with the congressional delegation, because there are things that we can do to try to protect those jobs. And I don't know that the plant will ever be able to run as it was. I mean, it's shutting down and continuing to do that, and as it reaches a point, it really can't come back to operation. And, and I'm not a nuclear engineer, but those are the things that I've been told. It really can't come back to operate. But there are other things that we can do, like what they have done in Ohio and in Tennessee and Oak Ridge with cleanup. And there is some recycling that they could do of the project, the tails that are out there. So I just think we have to do everything we can to continue to push for that. And it worries me. I mean, that is what would keep me up at night, is the loss of 1,100 jobs in our community and how we can do that. And we've been preparing for it for a long time. And we've known that someday we were going to go to this, hoping that we never would, but knowing most likely that we would. And when I was chairman of Paducah Economic Development, we set aside money to do a strategic plan to try to determine what companies would be interested in Paducah and what kind of companies would come to Paducah, and that we would feel is a good fit for our community. And those are the ones that we've been going after, and we've been very successful. We've had the 450 from Teletech. Those are not the kind of jobs that are going to replace the USEC workers, but they are jobs that will offer health benefits and offer some type of salary to our community. We've got the Mako company coming that's locating in a build-to-spec building that had been sitting there empty for about 10 years. So we finally have gotten that, and I believe it has about 40 jobs. Whitehall Industries coming in with 150 jobs that we're breaking ground on with Governor Beshear. So those are all things that we've been doing to try to help prepare our community by recruiting more jobs, and we're just going to have to be extremely aggressive to continue to recruit new jobs and then look for funding for cleanup.
Well, the DOE site has been in the news recently, just as of the day of this taping. WKYX headline was that a nuclear waste dump could be in Paducah. Is that possible? Is that true? I mean, can we stop that if it is true?
I think we have to be loud as we've just had a joint city and city commission and McCracken County Fiscal Court meeting to talk about what we're all doing and to take the gloves off. I think that was the phrase that's been used, and I want people to know we have been working as a community for years on this, trying to prepare ourselves, but no, hoping that it wouldn't come, but again, preparing ourselves. And now we're really in crisis mode. We have to do everything we can to get DOE's attention. We need our congressional delegation to be up there fighting for us. We've talked with the governor, and he's going to Washington, D.C. He'll be fighting for us, and we need to be along there beside him and along beside our congressional delegation, demanding what is right for our community. We don't want to be known as that. I don't even want to repeat what you've said, because I don't want our community to be known as that. We are a wonderful community of people that have lived here and moved here. And I used to say at the plant, when people would say something about they were going to be transferred to Wickliffe, Kentucky, or to Paducah, Kentucky, in that area, they would think, well, why would they want to come here? But once they got here, they do not want to leave. They have enjoyed the lifestyle that we have here. So we want to do everything we can to keep that.
There was a call at that recent meeting for citizens to input. What can the citizens of Paducah, McCracken County do to aid in this call for action?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to need to be loud and vocal, and the community's working on that right now as far as trying to establish a website. And I think people just need to be aware of what's going on and stay tuned with the news.
Okay. You mentioned earlier in the interview that you have been hired as the president of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce. That's a big job.
You know, I have kind of made the comment and laughed that I feel like I've been building my resume for the past 26 years for this job. I certainly did not grow up, though, thinking I wanted to be the president of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce. I had the good fortune, let me think how many years ago, about 20 or something years ago, to serve as the chairman of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce, and in fact was the first woman to have that position. So I've always been involved with the chamber and also with Paducah Economic Development in some way. So I feel like in a way I've just been building my resume, and when Elaine Spalding decided she was going to move to North Carolina, I had some calls to encourage me to consider the job and would I take it. And again, I did a lot of thoughtful process in my mind about whether or not I was ready to make a career change. To me, I thought being in Paducah was a real plus, because as in my role as being a Paducah City Commissioner, I would be right there, close. I'm very in tune with the business community. That's who our members are. We have over 800 members that are pro Paducah, pro the region, want us to be successful, want their businesses to be successful, which to me, that's what Paducah City Commission would want as well. So I'm very happy to have the Paducah Chamber position.
Well, it created maybe a smidgen of controversy with some folks and wondering, because the City Commission and the Chamber are not always on the same side of an issue. I know that you did a lot of research to make sure that this was going to, that these two jobs, you could do them both at the same time. That's right. You check with the legal authorities, and
yes,
there's no conflict of interest. And
absolutely, and I would correct that I don't know that there was a lot of controversy about it. There was one person that has the writing ability that questioned. I would say that they couldn't have said nicer things about me, and I still appreciate the fact that they said very nice things about me personally and me taking the job as the Paducah Chamber. I think what has been questioned by that, and then I have seen one or two random postings on Facebook about did I have the time to do it. But I'm a very high energy person. I thrive on that. I'm always on the go. I enjoy that part of my life. And so, yes, it is long hours at the Paducah Chamber of Commerce, but being a Paducah City Commissioner is not a full-time job. It is part-time. And I think it makes our community stronger if you have a diverse group of elected officials that bring different backgrounds to the City Commission, and we can all work together to voice, well, here's what I'm hearing in the business community, here's what you're hearing in the education committee, here's what you're hearing in your side. So we all are able to bring a different perspective, and I think that's why most elected bodies are not full-time positions.
Right. Well, that was going to be my next question. Instead of looking at that negatively, that maybe some have, it could be a positive because of your knowledge with things at the chamber and then with things at the city. You can bring those two groups together, maybe even more.
And I did consult with the city attorney at length and talked with him quite a bit about any potential events or votes that could be there. There could be something that they could take a different stand on, but most of the time the chamber and the city, I would think, are on the same page. There could be some times that we're not, but and that would have to recuse myself. But at the same time, I just don't see. I did not feel the need to immediately resign from being a Paducah City Commissioner to take the job as the Paducah Chamber. After consulting with the city attorney, I also talked to the Kentucky League of Cities, who's the city's trade organization, if you will, and talked to their chief lobbyist, who's an attorney, and there were no reasons legally why I shouldn't be able to do it. And in fact, Kentucky League of Cities made that same comment, that they felt like it could be an advantage that I would have that perspective.
You mentioned that your biggest issue was the possible closing of the plant, which seems more and more likely. What other things concern you about the city? What other issues do you think we're facing? What are we doing well? What could we do better?
Mm-hmm. The lack of population growth in Paducah really concerns me, and I want us to do things that we can to have more people living in the city and enjoying living here. I mean, I lived in McCracken County for a long time myself. I have, and then I moved into the city, and my daughter's moving back here, and unfortunately she was able to find a house in the city, and not just the city, but the whole community. I want to see us growing and moving forward and finding more jobs for our people and raising the economic stability of our citizens overall, the city and the county, because we have to work together, and I think that's one of my goals. I've worked very well with the county. I was able to work with them on the Murray State project, so we're in this as somewhat of a partnership, and so that's one thing. I think a lot of comments, people will say that it's harder to do things in the city. Their city has a lot more regulations. We do have some, but some of that is also just a perception issue.
You mentioned, and this is when Mayor Paxton was in, he had two main issues: economic development, which I think is most people's issue. We want to provide jobs for our citizens, and quality of life. What really can the city commission, the city government do to encourage that economic development, to bring jobs in, things like that?
Having been involved with economic development, I know it takes money. And companies that are coming here, it bothers me to have to give them incentives, but at the same time, I'm happy to do it because it's the only way to get them here. We are competing with communities all over the country to get the same companies moving here as what it might be opposed to moving somewhere else. For example, Mississippi, we just lost a project that came here, that was looking at here to Mississippi because they had some funding from BP and from what had happened there on the Gulf that those states had. They're just giving them cash to come to their state. Kentucky isn't doing that. Kentucky gives them incentives and gives them tax credits. We have to be willing to do whatever we can. Recently, we have had to give them the incentive of the land, where they don't buy the land to come here. They're not going to buy that land to go here. They're not going to buy the land to go anywhere usually, unless it's some big city that they just really want to be in. But to come to a community like Paducah, we're going to have to give them the incentives, and that costs money. So that's, for me, something that the city is going to have to continue to evaluate where we can stand on that and how much we can do, because if we don't have jobs, then people can't afford to do all of the other things that they want to do in our community. We have a great quality of life here. People that say there's nothing to do in Paducah just aren't looking, because every weekend there's just a list of things that you could go to downtown and at the mall and at the fairgrounds and out at the airport. It just seems like I can't make them all, and I'm actually aware of them and trying to make as many as I can. So there's just something of interest for everybody. But if people don't have jobs, they can't do that. And recently, the city had a survey of our citizens, and one of the things that came out of that we want to focus on and study is the city's role in economic development, and specifically look at what the city's role is, and how that we can enhance that and how that we can be involved. We can't continue to borrow money and make, not be fiscally responsible. We have to be fiscally responsible as a city, but we have to do what we can to get jobs here.
Do you think that, I know the incentives are a big deal, but do we have the infrastructure in place? Do we have the schools? Do we have the workforce that are attractive to those businesses? And then does it just come down to what we can give them to come here?
That is a big part of it. Our geographical location is good. We're in the middle of the country. We're right on an interstate. We're right on a river. And we have a new site that's about 1,000 acres on the river. So the infrastructure is here. Obviously, we need better roads to get out to the park that's on the river. It's out in West Paducah, so we would need that. But the plans are there, and we have gotten money from the state allotted to start buying and start planning that road improvement. My goodness, how many communities have 3 schools under construction at the same time of our size? That is in itself is awesome. We have the new Paducah Middle School for the city school system. We have the new high school for McCracken County Schools. And then we had Murray State building just from the campus of West Kentucky Community and a technical college. So how wonderful is that a community our size could have 3 schools under construction basically at the same time, overlapping. We have 2 opening. And I've said, with two strong school systems that we have, the city and the county, as well as all of the others with St. Mary and CCA, it makes our community stronger when we have choices for people that are moving in here.
Right, and I know that personally that the college tries to be very responsive to the needs of any potential employer that might come in to make sure that they have a trained and educated workforce. So
absolutely, I can't say enough about the community college. You know, the workforce development cabinet, I know I'm not saying that exactly correctly, but it's based out of Hopkinsville, and they do training for dislocated workers that are losing their jobs. And just recently, West Kentucky Community Technical College stepped up and offered the emerging technology building to be a center for them to work through with the employees that are going to be involved in that first layoff at USEC. And so I can't say enough about the community college. You're always stepping in to help with retraining, to help with anything that you can. And also when we have new companies coming in, the community college steps in to help with the training. So thank you to you all for the community college. And I know Murray State wants to continue to partner with you, and I think now that they're going to be half a mile down the road from you, the opportunities will be there for you all to partner even closer. And for your students that are here taking their first and second year, it'll be so easy to transition into their junior and senior year.
that seems ideal to me for
Yes.
students to be able to do that. I mean, it's not very far to Murray, but you know, it's 35 or 40 minutes depending on where you live, so that would be great for them
Well,
to be
you know,
able to.
generally the students that are going to go to the Murray State campus here are not the ones that would would relocate to Murray. They're the ones that are going to stay in Paducah. They're either married or have a family, and they want to continue their education, but they can't make that commute. So I really believe it strengthens Murray State. It's not the student that would move to Murray that will be going here necessarily. It may be, and that's okay. It all is tuition growth for Murray State, but the bottom line is it's increasing our educational level in our community.
Right. We have just about a minute left, and I always want to try to get a scoop while I'm doing these kind of interviews. Do you have any further political aspirations? Do you see anything past being a Paducah City Commissioner?
I am very happy being a Paducah City Commissioner, and you know, I love my life here. Everything is really great. It's funny, the other day I was somewhere, you know, I was in a play a couple of years ago at the Market House Theater, and I ran into someone. They said, "When are you going to do a play again?" And I made the comment, "Oh, there's one I would love to do next year. It's Still Magnolias is coming out." I said, "I would just love to do that play." And I stepped back and I thought, "Oh my goodness, there's no way I could do a play and live through it as far as continuing to be a city commissioner and continuing with the chamber and people thinking that I was actually breathing along and being able to do all of this." But I am enjoying it. I think we have a great quality of life here in Paducah, and I hope that other people will enjoy it as much as I am.
I get no scoop.
No. I'm very happy as a Paducah City Commissioner.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'd like to invite you back anytime that you want to talk about an issue or anything like that, and then we'll just have you back occasionally to give us updates on what's going on in Paducah.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Nice to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Had a long relationship, so thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you for joining us. This has been City Profile with Sandra Wilson, Paducah City Commissioner. Join us again next time. I'm Tom Butler.